Welcome everyone. Today we have another new episodes, and this episode definitely very important for the youth community, especially millions of people. They are communicate with World Talent Economy Forums. Already 1 million of students from India, they join in World Talent Economy Forum. They utilizing our contents, and they love to learn about innovation as well as leadership. So we will discuss on that particular point. We have very experienced guy, Mr. Kevins, as well as Mr. Jem Eid. Both of them has a very good leadership quality. They are engaged with the innovation and innovative worlds, and they have a lot of experience on startups and California related, like Silicon Valley and many more things they will share with us. Want to start with Mr. Jem Eid. How are you? How is everything? What's going on? How do you want to share your experience about leadership?
Well, I will. Thank you for having me on again, Sharif. I just a real admirer of what you're doing. And this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I live in the heart of Silicon Valley. So technology and leadership have been part of my life. Of course, nowadays, a lot of companies are moving to Austin, Texas, or someplace else because we can work from remotely. We don't have to live in the places where the real estate prices are sky high. But for the last 20 years, 25 years, I've been here. And I've been involved in startups. I've been on the boards of startups. And my specialty is a chess master. And I was president of the Culti Chess for Youth programs, the Cal Chess state program. I was a zone president and a representative from the United States to the international organization. And so I've been president of a national charity, and now I'm running my own foundation. And I could talk a little bit about what leadership is because people don't know what to do. Sometimes they want to help, but they don't know how. And if you can show them how and you can organize them, then you can make a difference. Now, everybody has their own skill set, and you have to be able to say, oh, you're good at this, you're good at that, and put it all together. And that's leadership. Now, the innovation comes from, do you have a new idea? Do you see what's going on? Do you see what's not working, what is working? Keep doing what is working and do something different for what's not working. And you have to innovate in order to change what's not working and make it work. And everyone wants to do their best. You can do your best by yourself, and it's not the same as doing your best with a team. Everybody gets better. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So leadership and teamwork is essential to make innovation happen and innovation be sustainable. Thank you, Sharif.
Thank you. Mr. Kevin, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, I'm just sharing our project that 1 million people only from India, they are joining in World Talent Economy Forum. They are utilizing our contents. By
Wow.
2023, we will reach 1 million people only in India. Beside
Wow.
that, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, China, Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, many more countries, Middle East, many countries we are growing very fast. So this is one of our commitment that already we have 5 millions of students in our community.
Wow.
And hopefully we will reach 100 millions people, both in online and offline. Many schools, universities, madrasa, like modern schools and traditional schools, everybody joining, and we distribute all of our content 100% free. So your knowledge, your experience, very much important for our youth community. So my question is that, what does mean innovations? Because we want to build up an innovative community. What's your experience? How do you want to share with us?
Interesting. Well, just one side note, Jim. My brother ran a chess club when he was a public school teacher in Salinas, and they won the national championship 2 different years, and it was always with 100% immigrant kids. The 2 years he won, it was a majority of them were children of farm workers, and 3/4 of them only had one parent in the home, and they beat Groton on Hudson, and it was quite an interesting experience because other people had not been asking those kids to be excellent, and so it was kind of neat. But I'm working now. I have worked in technology, Silicon Valley. I've been we created the largest impact investing social enterprise conference called SOCAP, Social Capital Markets, the market at the intersection of money and meaning. And I realized that a lot of innovation really requires nurturing, and it's not an idea, it's an ecosystem around an idea. And so we created a thing we call the Field Guide to Transformation, and it looks for what system are you in? Where is that system broken? And what's the missing capital? It can be social capital or financial capital that can cause the successes to move from the anecdotal to the transformative and system changing. And to do that, I think, I've discovered that at least I need to be working with cohorts because these innovations need to be nurtured over time. You don't solve it, but you find the different elements that can come together to make some of those really transformative changes. And I can go into that more, but I think it takes time, and you have to have a system analysis, and you have to say, where's the system broken, and what will cause that system to not be broken.
Thank you. Mr. Jamid, like at present situation, we have a lot of challenges. We have economic challenge, we have healthcare related challenge, many more things actually happening right now. My question is that in that situations, how a leader can handle their own society? What's your advice? What's your guideline? How do you want to share your experience with our audience?
Well, the main thing is to establish trust. Because whatever plan that you want to implement, people have to trust that you're doing it for the right reasons. People have to trust that it'll help. So you have to build trust, so you have to be trustworthy. And so when you are in a leadership position, you must have integrity. You must be seen to have integrity. The perception has to be there to motivate people, because you can't do it by yourself. You have to lead other people by walking the talk, and you have to show people that you're sincere, that what you're proposing has a chance of working, and if everybody pitches in. And so when everybody is in the same boat and they're pulling their oars in different directions, the boat's going nowhere. So you've got to get everyone to pull the oars in the same direction to move the boat. So it's the same thing with anything in society. If people are fighting and contention, and it's just, people are stopping progress, people are saying, no, progress is bad, and you're saying that the opposites of whatever anyone else is saying, you're going nowhere. So you've got to get people on the same side, moving in the same direction. And hopefully these challenges that you mentioned, we're still in the pandemic. The vaccine distribution is complicated, to say the least. We have economic depression because of it, and partly because of it. And we have policy differences. And so there's a lot of contention. And what we have to do is unite. We have to be able to work as a team. And so this bitterness and this lack of cooperation is what's holding us back. And if we can inspire others to just move in the same direction, to try to make a difference, we can survive anything. What's wrong with my country can be fixed by what's right with my country. And I believe that of every country, everybody.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Mr. Kevin,
Yeah.
like you have a lot of experience. You have a lot of experience in the from the industry, and you are an entrepreneur. And one specific point, Dr. Sharita actually said that leaders create leaders. What's the process? How we can create more leaders? How we can create more effective person?
Well, interesting. I work some with immigrant savings circles, and what I find there is that there are already people who are leaders, and so we try to see what we can do to help the people who are already leaders and who have the trust of the community in some of those groups. I mean, that's I think we have a model of leadership that's pretty outmoded. It's a kind of a hero entrepreneur kind of thing. And I think, people my age need to learn to follow younger people in what they're doing and to enable them to do those things. I think the idea of leadership as if the white folks of my generation are the one providing it is it was probably accurate. It seemed accurate to me until a dozen years ago or so, and I realized, I need to be listening and learning and following what people are already doing, and then providing the things that aren't there. For an example, I've been a venture capitalist and did okay at that, and we were the first one to successfully invest in a wholly fair trade company, Alter Eco, that went from about 1 million to 21 million and is a really good company in many, many ways. But I realized that co-ops that were doing the work only got a little bit more than the market rate wage. And I said, well, that's, who's getting the benefit from the venture capital? So I started looking at who didn't get venture capital and who wasn't the SOCAP conference working for. And it was mostly African Americans. It's a lot easier for white Americans to invest and give to Africans than it is to African Americans. It's just the truth. And so I've been working on our racial wealth gap for a long time. And one of the things I realized is the real gap is in friends and family funding. I was working with Jessica Norwood, who created the Runway Project, when we did an innovation around that. And what I find is that the fund managers don't realize that's a gap. There's a lot of new loan funds trying to reach out to African American entrepreneurs, especially after Black Lives Matter. But the money's not going out the door because nobody gives them the friends and family capital, the first 30,000 or so you'd get from a rich uncle or aunt, because they don't have a rich uncle or aunt. So we created a fund called the Community Equity Fund, and it's equity for in Black and brown entrepreneurs, $50,000 revenue, and which is not enough to live on, but have been around 3 years, and give them the money to run so that they can get the clean financials and hire the operator who helps them grow sales. So then they can access the loan fund, and it's not a gap that the loan funds realize. And that's the thing that's really interesting. I was being interviewed by someone from Duke University, and they were doing the whole capital stack, from project finance to private equity to venture to seed to friends and family. And I said, well, what if they don't have a rich aunt or uncle? And this is a kid from the business school of Duke University. It took him about 30 seconds to realize some people don't have a rich aunt or uncle, because he'd always grown up with it. And so the fund managers don't realize you need to institutionalize the asset class of friends and family for folks who don't have a rich uncle or aunt. So that's where we're solving that gap, and it's a mix of investment and philanthropic capital. But I think, learning to follow and fill the gaps that people of privilege don't see are gaps.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Professor Donalds, you are an innovative person. You have a lot of experience in innovation industries, and we have a good news. Like, we just finished agreements with Indian team that we will reach 1 million of people in India, and already we have 5 million students from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, even China. We are communicating as much as possible. So in that situations, there is some specific question from Dr. Sharita Sharma, Humaira Tanzila. They love to learn more about leaderships, and you have a huge experience from the innovative world. My question is that how you want to give some guideline for women leaders, how they can build up themselves, how they can be a good leaders in their community.
It's an interesting question. Women, all of the things about it varies widely. It depends a lot in the world, and no matter where you are, women have a challenge. I will say, though, that they have done studies, and women leaders of companies, when a woman leads a company, it actually does better than when a man leads a company. And I think one of the places I think it's very exciting right now, I'm constantly on about Finland, but their prime minister and all of their cabinet are women, and only one of them is only over 35. And I mean, that's really cool because they're elected. I mean, they're in a place, and by saying that they're elected, that fits right into something about leadership, which is that people studied leadership for years and years, and they only recently have people started studying followership. Like, what is it that makes people want to become what is it that makes people follow somebody? And then in the end, you can look, there's a whole sociological thing about leadership that back in when Max Weber was writing sociology, he had a very different view, or than we're getting to right now, is that the job of a leader is to create meaning. Like, we live in this world, and this world is confusing, and all these things happen, events happen, and we have to explain the events that happen around us. And we work together to create explanations. And leaders also are people that, I mean, that's one of the biggest things that leaders do, is help us understand what it is that is going on. That's what the great sociologist Max Weber said about leadership. And I want to say one other thing right now, because I'm just so fascinated about what everybody else has to say. I want to listen. But I had an acquaintance named Jim March, and he was an amazing professor. He was an emeritus professor of 5 subjects at Stanford, 5 different things: sociology, business, psychology. I forget all of them, but he was, and I was fortunate enough to get to talk to him one-on-one for many hours. And when he taught his school at Stanford his class at Stanford Graduate School of Business, he used 3 books. He used Don Quixote, War and Peace, and Crime and Punishment. And he said, Crime and Punishment has everything that you need to know about ethics. War and Peace has everything that you need to know about strategy. And Don Quixote has everything that you need to know about leadership. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with Don Quixote, but a couple of the scenes in Don Quixote is that he saw a bunch of sheep, and but instead of seeing the sheep like we would see, instead he saw an army. He looked at windmills and he saw giants that were attacking him, and he fought the giants. Now, why is it that you'd want to have a leader that was kind of crazy? And what Jim was saying was that we live in a world, a social world, where the meaning is created by everyone around us. So in a way, we become the same. There's a lot of pressure for us to all see the world in the same way. And he was saying that leaders are people who can look out in the world and see something new, something different, see things in a different way, and create new meanings and new ways of doing things. And so what is it? So in a sense, women have kind of an advantage because they're not in the patriarchal built-up system where everyone has to do things in a certain kind of way. I mean, we look at our ex-president, he who shall not be named, and one of the things that he did that was so kind of that made it work for him was that he appealed to this sort of toxic masculinity that people had. So when he went out and he attacked this group of people, or he insulted this group of people, he just, right up to the time that they attacked the Capitol, he was saying, they're weak, we have to be strong, and we see where that gets us. So I think that women have the challenge that they're in that system. I mean, that toxic system exists. But on the other hand, the women also have the ability to be more like Don Quixote in the sense that they can see the world in new, clearer, and more, or in different ways, and create different kinds of meanings so that we can have different things that happen. And to finish what I'm saying right now is that there was the in Bangladesh had huge population growth, just completely unsustainable. And then they put into Bangladesh microloans to women. And because of that, women had their own more financial security. And because of that, they had fewer children. And it made an incredible difference. It's one of the great success stories in the history of the world. So women are leading in many ways. And I think that we're going to see that happening more and more.
Thank you, sir. I just want to introduce some of the key points in terms of leaders in business industry. They have to know more about collaborations. They have to be more effective on mental health and addictions. They have to develop their client-centric service. At present situation, we need healthy public policy. They have to adapt it with the social change, keynote address, and need to be a team effectiveness. So beside that, Mr. Jem Eads and Mr. Kevins, how do you want to introduce different kind of characteristics leaders need to grow, and how they can handle their own ecosystems? What are the key characteristics they need?
Jim, do you want to go first, or I can go?
Sure, go ahead.
Well, one of the things that while we can say we're big backers of women, actually, they in social enterprise early stage investing, they outperform by 15%, but they're 40% less likely to get funding, and that's even on funds that have diverse leadership. So on a fund that I'm on the general partnership of, we established the guideline that we would give a 10% added score to women on our 100% scale, figuring out that we have unconscious bias. It's led by an African American man. The other managing partner is a female of color. And we would overcome our bias with a quota because we're not seeing the how it works. Even the diverse leadership is underfunding women by 40% when they're outperforming by 15. So I think we have to acknowledge that we're blind and set up new rules. And so, quotas can really actually start that. That's some people hate the idea of a quota, but if you can prove that you're 15% wrong in the way they perform, and you're 40% wrong in the way you decide, only adding 10% is a thing there. So I think, the answer is not guys. The answer is ceding power, and you have to institutionalize the ceding of power.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. Jem Eid.
Well, that was great. And I do want to mention that my wife is a angel investor, and the group is called Golden Seeds, and they invest only in women-led companies. Women have to be in a leadership role for them to invest. And so there is this growing sense that we need to include others besides people that look like me in our decision making, in our leadership roles, and in the people that we support and give a hand out to and a leg up for in order to be successful. So by expanding our awareness, I think we have expanded our chances of being successful in all the things that we are different things that we are trying to do. And the things that we talk about, I saw the comment that leaders make leaders. And every job that I've had, I've been grooming my replacement right up until now. This has been every position that I've ever had. I've expected to leave and expected to have someone that can take over for me. So part of leadership is the awareness that you will not be in leadership forever. and you must train others to replace you. And you groom them by telling them, okay, this was not successful for me. It probably won't be successful for you. This is the way it was successful for me. This might be something you want to try and see if it works. And if it works, then they buy in. And so you just have to create this sense of not only team effectiveness, but individual opportunity to come out and do what the leader is doing. So you want to groom other leaders. And this is the thing that I have tried to do all my life, and with, modest success, but it works. It works if you get out of your own head and think about what's my next job and how can I promote myself? And you think about how you can promote others, how you can help others, lift them up and let them lead, and you take a back seat. When you get to my age, it's easier to do. But I was doing this when I was younger as well. We just have to change our mindset. Part of leadership is identifying the skill set around you and seeing somebody that can replace you. And this is not the way that we're trained as young people. When we become early adults, we want to be successful, we want to get promoted, that we're thinking about ourselves. And what you really want to be thinking about, in my experience, has been to think about the team and then how to get someone to replace what you're doing so you can move on to the next thing. And if you think about it in those terms, in those ways, you're helping others to help everyone. And then you start with yourself, then you go on to your community, and then you continue to build. So I've been very impressed by this concept of social investment, and we definitely have a bias built into our society, and we must be aware of it and take action to change it.
Thank you. Yes, Professor Donalds, what do you want to add for this discussion?
Well, first off, I'm really impressed with what Kevin said, that there's institutional bias. And I've worked with some organizations, including Golden Seeds. They've had at our incubator, they've had their meetings, and I've been to quite a few of the meetings there. And so I know exactly who they are. They're a fabulous organization. And I moderated a conference on women leaders once, where people from Golden Seeds were. And I think what Kevin said is incredibly true, because one of the things that just happens to them is they can't get funding. And Golden Seeds helps to address that, but overall, there is an incredible bias. And I like the idea of institutionalizing basically a handicap for them, because that just makes incredible sense. And it can be done, as Kevin said, by the numbers, not by just, like, I feel this is wrong, we should do something. They can look 15%. Okay, let's encode this 15%, because our job as investors is to make money. And if we're not investing money into the people we know are going to do the best, then that's going to be a huge problem. I'd like to say, you're just not going to do as well, and that can be a problem if you're managing other people's money. So then. Okay.
No, please continue.
Okay, there's one other little thing I wanted to say, which is that about leadership, that my uncle had a company that was about 500 people. It was one of the bigger electrical engineering firms in California. They put the lights on the Golden Gate Bridge and the lights on the Hollywood Freeway and things like that. And he was beloved. He had people, when he passed away at 91, he was still going to the office every day. And he had people that had worked for him for 40 years. And when he worked with his vendors, they'd talk to him to negotiate so that they could give him a lower price so that they'd actually get the deal. He was completely trusted. And what he said all the time was, he said, I don't know what these people do. He said, they're brilliant at what they do. I couldn't possibly know all the things that they do. He was electrical engineering at Stanford, and Fred Terman was his professor when he went to school. So he was a pretty sharp guy. And I think that's something that's really, I'm going along with what James said. I think it's really important to understand that good leaders realize that their job is to facilitate the people that are working for them and make sure they get the resources that they need, and they don't have stuff that blocks them and makes them so they can't do their job. And so in the end, that's respect. And I think that's one of the keys.
If I can add to that, with our businesses, we've had some of the same thing, people taking lower prices for us, but that's because we're really conscious of who our vendors are and try to find them new customers. And so, we had a large conference, and so we used our platform to give them new customers. On the other hand, I had a friend who does the plantings in the medians between roads, and he was telling me that the city of Oakland contacted him and says, why are we paying more? He says, well, everybody knows that the city of Oakland costs at least 5% more to deal with. You guys are slow to pay, you're slow to make decisions, and you cause lots of problems. You look at all your vendors, they're charging you at least 5% more. So I think you can save money by good relationships, and it will cost you money to have worse relationships. And there's the other cities in the East Bay don't get better prices than Oakland, because Oakland is just prickly to deal with. And if you're good to deal with, and if you make money for your vendors, then your vendors will give you better prices.
Thank you. One specific point I just want to add. Tomorrow we have a session with startup and innovations. And I think last week was awesome. Many students, because already we have access with 5 million people. Many students actually encouraged and motivated about this innovation and startup. So my questions to our speakers today, like how we can develop some leaders in the startup ecosystems, and how we can develop some good entrepreneurs. What your advice? Even in COVID situation, many people lose their job, many people unemployed, so they are taking some initiative. They want to be entrepreneurs. So what your advice?
I'll go quickly first. One of the things I always look for is, what's your social capital bonus? Tell me the people who really want you to succeed, who are backing you. How have you already gotten momentum that my money will add to? And if you don't have people who are your fans, if you couldn't do a good crowdfunding campaign because people don't like you, then you shouldn't get funding. So I want to see, show me the escalation of your social capital, and show me partnerships that equal lower revenue, lower costs from vendors, or higher premiums from your customers. So.
Yes, thank you. Yes, Mr. Jem Eid.
Yes, I think we should begin with telling people that the vast majority of startups fail. And not everyone is cut out to be an entrepreneur, and that they cannot maybe put their own abilities to best use by being a innovator and a startup person, but maybe they could be part of a team. Whatever their skill set is, they could be part of a team. You might have somebody else that is involved with the startup, and that they need a skill set that you have. So be on the lookout for opportunities to take your skill set, whatever it is, develop it to the best of your ability, and look for the opportunity to join somebody who's doing something that you want to do and need your skill set. So this is, different people have different, abilities, and some people are just cut out to do startups. And if they fail, they'll start again, another one, they'll fail again, and they'll start up, and then they'll succeed. But not everybody is built that way. You have to be aware of what you provide, what you bring to the table, and hone that skill. Do your best to make yourself the most valuable contributor that you can be, and then look for the opportunities to make your skill set part of a team that is successful. And be aware that most startups fail, and do not let failure stop you from trying again.
Thank you, Professor Donald.
want to basically talk a little bit, build on what our last two, Kevin and James, just said. Kevin warmed my heart because, as you know, I'm a researcher in social network analysis and social networks. And when you grow, when you have a company, you need three kinds of capital, and most people will tell you two. What they'll tell you is you need financial capital and human capital. Financial capital, of course, is money. Human capital is the expertise that you need to do whatever you're trying to do. But the third, which is less commonly discussed, is social capital. And if you don't have the relationships that you need to do what you want to do, then you're going to fail. You're guaranteed to fail because you need to have the relationships with your vendors. You need to have relationships with your customers. You have to have relationships with your employees. You have to have a relationship with people that contribute different things to your company. If you're an engineer, you need marketing, you need finance, you need all these different kinds of things. So one of the key things to being a successful entrepreneur is the ability to respect and integrate these different social worlds that are necessary for you to be able to do it. And what winds up happening is sort of what James said, is you wind up with this feedback loop where once you start to have these relationships, then it pulls you. What I was saying about followership as well as leadership, a good leader is people just kind of say, hey, why don't you be the leader here? I mean, there's always the stories of Ellison and Jobs and things like that. It's funny, last night, I may try and get him on the show, but I know the guy very well who was Steve Jobs' roommate in college, and he went to India with Steve Jobs. He was the first employee of Apple, Dan Kotke, who's in all of the books, and probably the other people here know Dan Kotke because everybody in Silicon Valley knows Dan Kotke. But nonetheless, you don't get many people that are that out. Actually, yesterday I was talking to a psychiatrist who said that he actually had to treat a lot of people who were involved with Steve Jobs because he drove everybody nuts. And literally, and so I think that what my uncle did is a lot better. I mean, his company, it's like Kevin said, he helped his vendors. The vendors trusted him. They knew that he was going to come through for them, that he was going to pay his bills, that he was going to refer them to other people, all of those kinds of things. And so the most important thing, and leaders, there's one last thing I'm going to say right here, is that in Silicon Valley, we have a structure that helps people get helps people get funding. But if you don't have the friends and family to get you started, if you don't have that ability, you're in tough shape. So I know there's NGOs and other kinds of things that are trying to help do microloans and other kinds of things to help build in your community. And the way you're going to find them a lot is not by Googling on the internet. The way you're going to find them is somebody is going to tell you about them. And just like rent controlled apartments, or the way that hermit crabs, as I was saying, go, that so that's the last thing I'm going to say about the importance of social capital, is that it allows you for serendipity. It allows you to get that random thing that you didn't even know existed. I tell the companies, I say, you are going to run into problems you don't even have a name for. You never knew they existed. You can't even believe that you're running into these problems. But there's people who've had the problems. They know what they're called. They know how to solve them. And you're not going to be able to find those people unless you invest the time in other people. And that's the social capital is like any capital. You have to work at it, put it in the bank, and make more of it. So to me, that's the most important thing that you can do.
Sharif, can I say something?
Thank you. You bring very, very important things. Yes, definitely.
Because especially living where I live, you get a lot of people involved in technology, And these technical people do not have necessarily developed those social skills that Donald is talking about. So I just want to emphasize what he's saying. The social skills, these networking, these are essential qualities. And so if you have the technology background, if you're a good programmer, for example, if you've created a great software product, you've got to have somebody that has the networking power. There's somebody that's got the social connections, somebody who's going to go out and do a presentation for you. So this is why we need teams. Thank you.
Thank you. This is really very important point. So that is the point. Actually, I'm just sharing the video that very important point actually come from the speakers, network and social values. And like World Talent Economy Forum, it's not suddenly 10 or 9 months we are just joining in internet and trying to bring the people. No, year and year. I'm just sharing that it's one of the highest successful academy. Thousand people join in my academy. I'm working as a director for them, and biggest corporation from the South Asia, they also join, all of the electronic media, and we change human lives. And it's happened example in 9 years before. So issue is that we are very much committed towards our society, and not only that, suddenly year and year. It's a 12 years of my journey. At least I know everybody here is very experienced, but in academy and the education industry, we have a lot of contributions. So that's why we have a very great faith. And you can see that people, famous speaker from 5 different continents, thousands of students joining in our academy. And what's the outcome from this academy? I know many students, they're getting admission in Ivy League university. Many students now, they are employee of multinational company. I know many students now, they are very successful entrepreneurs. All of them are highly successful because we arrange a highly exclusive event for them. So this is our objective actually, World Talent Economy Forums. We want to change human lives, but how? We need a process. So that's why Professor Donalds, Mr. Kevin's, Mr. James, and we have 300 speakers right now. We need all of your support and collaborations. By this way, we can change our ecosystem. And always I believe the different culture are also important. Like example, Indian culture and American culture, and when they interact together, they can make big things. So this is our objective. We want to make something important, something valuable. So global knowledge is very much important. So I request to the students, even the university, school, college, those who are sharing our content, please be focused on, be respectable on these speakers. They are highly experienced, they have huge experience in their industry. Try to listen from them. I'm sure that if you communicate directly with them, they will respond to you, and by this way we can develop our ecosystem. And tomorrow we have another excitement. We have another session, startup and innovations, and definitely we will learn more. And I request our today's speakers, please contribute more for World Talent Economy Forums. Your knowledge, your expertise will change millions of people. So Mr. James and Mr. Kevin Jones, when we develop a company or startup or
Excuse me.
anything, lot of
I need to run. Thank you so much. All right.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin.
Okay.
Thanks, Kevin. It
Thank
was
you.
nice meeting
Thank you.
you.
So, okay, thank you. So my questions to you, both of you, like example, when we develop a company, many kind of challenges come. So when actually challenge come, youth community, they feel not good, they feel fear, they do not want to move forward. What your advice for that particular issues?
Donald, would you like to go first, or shall I?
Okay, I'll take a stab at it. As my lawyer friends would say, they put their fingers together and look very serious and say, well, it depends on the facts and circumstances. And I think that is something that others have said about, or James said actually, about how some people feel more comfortable with that. I mean, and I think that that's one of the things that winds up happening, is that the people that are more comfortable with that kind of bubble up into these positions. And again, I want to emphasize that great leaders like I forget his name right now, that was started NetApp, and I worked at NetApp for a while. One day I was in the training department, and I made this video, the kind that where there's a whiteboard and the person's talking and drawing pictures at the same time, and they never had anything like that. The videos were so boring. I wanted to come up with something more interesting, and I sent it to the CEO of the company, to the CEO, and he watched it twice. It was a 40-minute video. He watched it twice and sent me feedback on it. Now, there is a leader. I mean, people love the guy. And when you have a situation like that, you work 10 times as hard. If you are in a situation where you think that you are in control of things and you micromanage and boss people around and stuff like that, all it does is it sets off this passive aggressive thing in people where they do the minimum. And so real leaders have to completely respect the people that work for them, and they have to show that respect every time they interact with them. So how do you develop social skills? Everybody can develop social skills. Active listening, just active listening alone is enough to just completely change. When you ask people to do something, you don't order them to do something. You say to them, well, we've got this problem. How can we solve this problem? Do you have any ideas? And they'll come up with the same thing you were going to tell them to do, but it's theirs. They own it. So being able to get through is to be able to look around at the people around you and have the people around you support you. And that's really what's going to wind up happening, because if everybody's being passive aggressive, they don't like you, they don't want to do things for you, you're never going to go anywhere. And so respecting others, and that is a little bit of the question, is how do you get through tough times? Because if you respect others, they'll respect you. And in the end, it's the social support that's going to make you get through. Because I'm going to finish that off by saying there are entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley that have gone bankrupt 3 times before they had a successful company. 3 times. Now, why would anybody lend money or give money to somebody who'd gone bankrupt? I mean, that doesn't make any sense, does it? But yet people do. And ask yourself the question, why? That's because those people have built relationships, people trust them and respect them. And that's the key to being able to get through times like this.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Mr. Jamid.
Yeah, I just think that there's a lot to be said for that credit is cheap. You can give other people credit without costing yourself anything. And you want to build that environment where people get credit, and when they get credit, they want to produce more. So I just want to compliment Donald for what he just said. This is the environment that you want to build around you. That's in essence of leadership, where you don't have to own credit for everything. You share it, and you get people to contribute. I can remember my first managerial assignment, and the feedback that I got from the standardized thing that they do for feedback was that I wasn't warm and fuzzy enough. You know, it was in a very technical job, and so the people that were working for me didn't think I was giving them enough credit, is what I heard. And so I made a point of complimenting people much more than my personality would lead me to do. I would even if I thought it was a trivial thing, I would acknowledge that they did it. Just that acknowledgement is powerful. So give credit. Credit is cheap. It costs you nothing. Let people feel that they've contributed, and they will contribute more. So what Donald was telling us is something that we really want to focus on. If we are in a position of leadership, share credit. Give people the opportunity to know that they've contributed, and they will want to contribute more.
Thank you. Another specific point, what I'm observing right now, like example, different government from the developing economy, they are also investing on startup and other things. Even we are discussing many startup can be successful, many startup can be fail. But my question is that how we can make better ecosystem uh, for the startup. And most of the point I'm observing that startup, they want to go global, they want to be globals. What your point of view? If a startup go as a global company, is it important, or they should serve for their own community first? What the idea, Professor Donald, you want to share, or what the fact you want to share?
That's an interesting question because that's debated much at the incubators in Finland and Austria and people like that is, do you want, because there are consequences. For instance, if you have a product that's much cheaper and easier to patent it in your own country, but then if you do, then it's not patented in all the other countries. So if you are intending to go to global, you have to get international patent protection. And that's one thing that happens. Uh, it, I've worked most closely with countries in Finland, which I think is a good thing because it's this teeny little country. Oh, also in Canada, that's another thing. I mentioned before that they invest in Canadian companies, and when they actually want to grow, they leave. They come to the United States because the market in Canada is so small, they can't grow. They get to a certain point, and Finland's even smaller, so the same thing happens to them. It again goes back to social capital because we worked with Finnish companies trying to expand into the United States, and many of them were unsuccessful because what they would do is they would come, the government paid for them to come and go through courses and really learn how American culture so that they could expand. Their strategy before was to call the 800 number they saw in a commercial and try and develop relationships with the company that way. You can imagine that did not work. They were calling a call center in India. And the thing that did work was kind of funny for one company, and they made machines that sliced the steel as it rolled off the system. One of Finland's biggest exports is steel manufacturing plants. I mean, it's something that you would never even think of because they're so behind the scenes. And this one company took almost all the money that they had, and instead of investing it in new technology, they stole the salesman from their biggest competitor. They hired him away. Now, that one of the things about good salesmen is what they have is lots and lots of good relationships. People trust them. They can go out and talk to the people. They know who to talk to, and that's what makes them good salesmen. So what happened was the company thrived. They expanded into the United States with absolutely no problems, and the Finns would come over that we were working with, and they would sit in the corner speaking Finnish and making observations at networking events about what other people were doing. And we had to coach them, don't do that. Even though you're afraid to do it, walk up and talk to people. And I'm going on a lot, but there was a study that was done in Chicago where they got students to talk to people at the beginning of a commute when there was the very beginning when there was practically nobody. And they got 3 groups of people, and one of them was supposed to do what they always did. The other group was supposed to not talk to anybody, and the third group was supposed to talk to any stranger that they met, strike up a conversation. And you know what happened? Every single solitary person that tried to strike up a conversation was successful. The people that they went to talk to actually liked talking to them. And the people that they talked to had a better trip, and they had a better trip. They were all happy. So just people want to connect. People want to talk to you. So it's a key thing about human beings. I have another thing that I'm going to talk about probably later, but I'd like to pass this on to other panelists.
Thank you, Mr. Alex. You have a very good leadership quality, especially crisis management and this point of views. I'm sure you have a lot of experience and other things from different countries around the world. So, how do you want to share your experience about leadership and innovations, and how you manage crisis period with your team?
Okay, yeah, hello. Hello, Sharif. Is my internet connection okay? Because my mic's cutting out a little
Yes,
bit. The audio and the video is going through clearly. Wonderful.
yes.
So, so I do have a couple decades experience doing international journalism work, working on a lot of humanitarian missions, a lot of environmental projects, activism related projects, just things to help make the world a better place. So to accomplish any of this, of course, I need to network with other people. Sometimes I need to have teams or volunteers, and obviously good communication skills. But there's also one thing that really helps me is just that I'm high energy. Like I always talk a lot, I talk fast, I think, I do things, I work, I get stuff done. I'm like a really ambitious person. So I'm constantly just trying to think like what I can do to help make the world a better place. I only have so many life hours. I'm only alive on this planet for so long. So what am I going to do to create change? What am I going to do to change, the area around me, the atmosphere, the people, and those I come in contact with? Or how could I leave this world better for future generations? So that's usually what drives me to be so ambitious, is also realizing that we only have so much time before everything's completely irreversible when it comes to ecosystem collapse and climate change feedback loops and all of that. So some of the things that's helped me out over the years, of course, and obviously it's coffee, is just managing my time, just having like not really like a layout or notes or even like priorities, but just like if I'm doing something and I'm like, why am I doing this? Like a lot of people watch TV shows, they participate in sports and all these other things that I don't think are helpful. So I think I've just prioritized my time, and as a leader, I think that's what you have to do. If there's so many things to do every single day, how to spend our time, where we can go, how to spend our money. So really, if your goal is to be a leader and to practice leadership skills and projects, then your goal needs to be to manage your time. So I think, again, and I've mentioned this in other episodes, I think just time management is really important. Instead of just like watching the same TV show or the same movie or doing something that's repetitive, you just do new things and, expand your knowledge, and of course, things that are benefiting whatever you're working on. So communication skills are also like very important, super important for being a leader. And I'm not saying like I'm the best at communicating, but as you see, like when I talk, I usually use my hands. And if I wasn't sitting in my car, I'd use my hands a lot more to talk. I see James, he does that a lot. He uses his hands because it's a form of body language. So that's a good form of communication. Eye contact, of course, is important. And then what else did I write? So so like how you communicate with people and the things that you usually cover are very important to be a leader. So I would recommend taking a college course in communication skills. And then if you don't have access to a college, you're not in college, you don't have access to that, through the internet or whatever, to sign up, there's of course a lot of good YouTube videos. So just do those keyword searches in Google and YouTube. And then there's also, if you just go to images, in Google, there's a lot of good images and infographics of communication. So another thing when it comes to leadership, and maybe not a lot of people think of this, and unfortunately this is the way our society is. Sometimes, or most of the time, you got to be clean cut, you got to dress nice, you got to kind of look nice. So I can't be all super scruffy and dirty, like I have to kind of present myself nice. I mean, it'd be nice if I shaved a little bit more. So that's just how society is. And that also helps build confidence, because confidence is also really important. And then I was just going to say, like, having a notepad and a list of things to do is important, having a good network of friends, and just being, really like optimistic, outgoing, high energy, confident, and just reaching out to a lot of people. Don't be nervous to pick up your phone and make that phone call or send someone that email. Just get stuff done. Just realize that you're in this position to make a difference and make a difference.
Mhm. Thank you.
So,
Thank you. Yes, Professor Donald.
What was the question again? Sorry.
No, like question is that about the crisis management, actually how leaders can grow their skill as a crisis managers, even how they can manage the crisis.
I think that what Alex said, he made a really good point, is that ultimately the leader can't freak out. I mean, if the leader says, "Oh, that isn't really going to work," because leaders are steering the ship. I had a friend that was he's a venture capitalist that worked on, and he was a CEO, and he worked on a submarine when he was in the Navy, and on the submarine there was a pun which said the attitude of the ship is determined by the leader. Well, attitude is how the ship, is like rocking around, but so that was a pun. But that's a true thing. I mean, that's what winds up happening if you want to be a leader, is that you can't freak out whenever anything goes wrong. And so I'm just going to support Alex with that and just kind of pass it on.
Thank you, Mr. Jim.
Yes, there was a couple of questions there, and I want to answer both of them. One was the global versus local when you're starting your entrepreneurial efforts. I think everything that we're talking about in terms of leadership has been your ego is not your amigo. Get your ego out of the way, because when you want to start something and you want to think, I want it to be the biggest thing ever, I want it to be global, maybe that's not a good thought process. I always say start with yourself, then start with your community, and then grow beyond that. And I think that the part of starting with yourself is to be present. As Alex was talking about, don't zone out. If you zone out with whatever you're doing, you go on autopilot, you're just another brick in the wall. So keep going and focus and be present. And I really want to second what Donald was saying about do not lose your head when others around you are losing theirs. I supported the trading system for a major brokerage system. And when the system went down, everybody around me was panicking and I could stay calm. But that was because of the work I had done on myself. Staying calm in times of crisis is one of the best tools that you can have, because then you're using your brain, your cognitive functioning is not impaired by emotional baggage. And so you just focus on what it is you need to do. What's the next right thing to do? And you fix what's broken and you get the system back up and running. And that's just one example. But this is constantly, whatever you're involved in your entrepreneurial efforts, you're going to run into crises. There's no question about it. Nobody has a smooth upward. It's not ever ascending plateaus of greater happiness. You have to be able to deal with crisis, because inevitably they will occur. And the best thing you can do is stay cool, stay calm, and think about what's the next right thing to do. And others around you will see that you're calm, and they will pick up on your calmness. But if you panic, they will pick up on that panic. Go ahead, Donald.
Oh, I just want to support what Jim said in an interesting way. We have two parts of our brain, major parts of our brain that control how we act. And one of them is the anterior cingulate cortex, which is it's for guiding us. They call it executive function. And the other is the amygdala, which is how we respond to emotional events. And what happens sometimes is something scary happens or something even really good happens, our amygdala takes over and we're responding in kind of non-thinking ways. And interestingly enough, simply focusing on some problem causes your anterior cingulate cortex to take over and your amygdala to calm down. So there's an actual neurological basis to what James was just saying. And I think everyone can remember this. This is an actual tool that you can use. So I had to throw that in. So that's all.
Yeah, great.
Thank you, thank you. This is the things like we our major objective change a human life, and how, if we want to change human lives, we need to focus on educations already. I just want to share this point with my friend Mr. Alex from India. Already we are connected with 1 million students by 2023 World Talent Economy Forum. With our educational content, we will reach 1 million students in India. Beside that, many countries already they are joining, many university already they are starting to share our contents in different of their activities. We need more of the collaborations, more support, more guidelines, and more good content for our students. So one specific point is that like futuristic idea, futuristic visions, and we need to be predict about the future. So what do you want to add, Mr. Alex, about this analytical skills, and if student want to grow their futuristic leadership quality, what's your answer?
So just to be broad or to add some additional information, yeah, to grow. So of course, I just mentioned, trying to
Yes.
dress nice and confidence and communication skills are important. It was just mentioned about stress. So there's stress management. There's a lot of ways to reduce stress, which I'm sure are accessible on Google. Working out and getting 8 hours of sleep and all of that. So staying calm, definitely important. But also just realizing that when you're a leader, you're in the position that people are depending on you. So it's up to you to make the right choices, whether it's not have that extra cup of coffee or to get 8 hours of sleep, to go to sleep early, to dedicate the time to not watch that TV show, to do the work, the homework that you got to do, the research. Whoever's depending on you, just like making the choice on what you're going to accomplish, what your goals are. And then as a leader, or even like a manager or a owner of a company, let's just say a manager, it doesn't matter what the problem is of the manager, like, because there's going to be a lot of problems. They just need to find the solution. So the owner of the company or the higher up doesn't really want to like listen to like the manager's excuses. They just want the manager to find solutions, because that's the goal. And as a leader, you don't always have a lot of people to turn to help you find the solution. So you have to figure it out on your own. You have to figure it out independently. And I think that's another really important thing with the leader, because there's not always people to turn to. There's not always people above you. There's not always access to the internet. And there's going to be a series of continuous problems. And I think being a leader, that's usually what it entails, is consistently fixing or solving issues in a ever cascading amount of issues. And that's I guess your goal. And in a crisis situation, you do have to solve a lot of issues. And another huge benefit to me is I'm high energy, I'm ambitious, I think fast, I move fast, I do things fast. I'm surprised my heart's made it this long. So I think that I'm not lazy and I can't ever just sit and watch TV or anything like that is a huge benefit to me. And I think being a leader, that's the same thing. You don't really have a lot of time to be lazy and sit around. You have to, like, all the time, even if you are just relaxing, you could have an audio file playing something in your ear. If you're driving, you could have an audio file. If you're working out, all these different things that you could, again, maximize your time to just continually get knowledge, because the more knowledge you have, the more information you have, the more confident you're going to be, and the easier you're going to be able to solve all of those problems. So, of course, that it comes back down to education, just having all of that knowledge and all that education. Smartphones are also extremely important. I mean, we could do so much with these smartphones nowadays. And even though we've discussed and talked about the environmental impact of technology, the lack of sufficient recycling capabilities in different countries, smartphones are extremely valuable to being successful. And if you're doing good work, and if you're doing good environmental work, if you're really making the world a better place, I I don't know how to say this, but I would not limit yourself from upgrading to the new phone if that's the main thing that's going to help you solve so many things. And for an example, I just upgraded my phone because my camera didn't work. A lot of things didn't work, and I got a lot of stuff to do in a short amount of time. And I know that it takes fossil fuel related environmental impact and all of that, but just having a good smartphone I think is really important. So if you are going to be a leader, I would just also prioritize your money to having a good phone, because there's just so much you can do in your phone with, lists and apps and research and all of that. And I even use my phone when I'm offline in disaster areas to take pictures, to document things, to do notes. So they're extremely useful, even if you don't have any internet connectivity. There's also, when you do have internet, even though you can't download YouTube videos, you could, of course, go to certain areas. You could do those screenshots. You could download PDFs. You can get information into your phone that you can then later use and research and study offline.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
that's all.
Mr. Jamit.
Yes, I have to say that I was listening so intently to Alex that I'm not sure what you're asking me.
Okay. We are just discussing about this futuristic leadership idea and thoughts.
Yeah. I'll go back to what Donald said, about Don Quixote. What you can learn about leadership from Don Quixote. Yeah, tilting at windmill sounds crazy, but Don Quixote saw things that other people didn't see. And that might be the point. The leader has to see things that other people don't see. And it's important to know that everybody mostly sees what everybody else sees and does what everybody else does. And a leader has to see what's not there and what could be there. And that's the imagination that the leadership has, to see what's not there and want to create what isn't there and make it manifest, see it in reality, and then get people to buy in and to say, yeah, we could do that. That might happen. We could make that work, and then make it work. Turn it into a reality. So what's not there, what other people don't see, you create. So it's the creativeness, it's the vision, and it's the ability to imagine what could be rather than what is, and not settle for what is, and then make it happen, manifest it, turn it into reality. That is a key leadership quality, and the ability to get others to follow, the ability to see it and inspire others to do it and make it happen.
Thank you. I directly want to go for the concluding remarks. Before that, I want to request today's speakers, our audience, and everyone. Tomorrow we have very, very important sessions, because we will reach 200 of our episode. We will discuss on startup and innovations. And by these 200 episodes, we already reach 5 million youth people, at least 100 different countries, many university they are communicating, and there are really many youth community already fan about Professor Donald, fan about Mr. James, fan about Mr. Alex, fan about all of our 300 speakers. We are really doing hard works, and hopefully we will reach 100 million people by 3 years, by 2023. And hopefully this will be one of the amazing achievements for all of our speakers' life, and we will make you a history through your contributions. So this is our objective, and hopefully everybody will join tomorrow's session, because tomorrow's session is very important for us, because we are reaching 200 of episodes, 5 million of students. So I directly want to go for the concluding remarks. Want to start from Mr. Alex, then my friend Mr. James, and finally Professor Donald. Mr. Alex.
Yes. James did mention a good thing. It's just envisioning what your end goal is and what you're going to accomplish. So, like, let's say that there's a lot of trash in a pile, and you know that you want to clean up that trash. You just have to realize that other people have done similar projects. It's within the realm of reality. You just kind of like envision it. That's what I usually do. Like, if I'm going to build something, I just envision what it's going to look like. Some people use the term, manifestation's another important term, but just envisioning and just realizing that you can do that. Adaptation or adapting or adaptation is also important. If you have this a certain route that you're going to do something, and then all of a sudden something comes up and interferes with that, and then you're, whoa, what the, sorry.
It's a Bernie meme.
Sorry.
That's
And then you just adapt, and then so that's important. So sometimes you might want to do things a certain way, but you just have to realize that the end goal is just getting it done. So that's also important. And don't let anything slow you down is also important. There's I hate to say it, but there's a lot of people in your life and a lot of people in the world that won't see the same vision as you. They won't believe in you. They won't support you, and they might say some really negative things about your project, and it'll lose hope. And unfortunately, maybe like 18 years ago, I started like really researching climate change and really believing in it and studying it and just doing a lot of work. And then some of my closest family and friends just said, "Oh, it's ridiculous," or "Oh, it's crazy," or "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about," or "Oh, that's all a lie." And then so I was like, but I just did like 1,000 hours of research. And then there's people that I trusted, that I looked up to, my peers, like people older than me that I thought were like more intelligent than me, smarter, better at things and more educated, that I trusted. So they let me down, and that maybe set me back a year or 2 years of raising awareness more of everyone of this crisis. So yeah, sometimes just it could be your best friend, it could be unfortunately like one of your family members. Just don't let people slow you down. Don't let people discourage you. That's the word. Don't let people discourage you. Like if you have a goal to do a big trash cleanup, to start a company, to build a project, to complete something, and I think that's what I've learned over the years is just be perseverant, I think is the word, where you just continue to go forward, or there's that term, stay the course or whatever. You just stay focused on what the end goal is, and you don't let people get in your way. You don't let them slow you down, and you also create your network with people that are leaders, that are strong people, that have good communication skills, that get stuff done. You look at their past projects, you listen to how ambitious they are and what they want to contribute to your project. So yeah, just having a good network of people, a good team, and if just try to ignore or distance yourself from the people that are not as supportive for your goals and life missions. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. James.
Yeah, I just to piggyback on what Alex was just saying. You have to have confidence, but self-confidence should not be arrogance. So you need discrimination to determine between it. You have to believe in yourself, whatever you're going to accomplish, but don't be arrogant. This will make you unsuccessful. So yeah, confidence is great, and also be opportunistic. For example, I just heard we're going to 100 countries. Wow. Well, get this book if you want to play chess. It's a book. So seize the opportunities and don't be ashamed to put yourself out there. Don't be ashamed to put yourself out there. Get yourself known and get people to work with you. Because if they don't know what my foundation does, they don't know it exists, then what good am I? So I've got to be shameless. I've got to be unabashed and get my message out there so that people know what I'm doing and reach out to me. Because I don't know them, they don't know me, we can't connect. And it's all about connecting. And I have this background for a reason. There are walls between us, and we want to tear these walls down, and we don't want to be just another brick in the wall. So keep tearing down walls, make good trouble. So I just think that everybody working together, doing the best that they can, having the confidence to do it, talking to one another, connecting is the most important thing that we can be doing, because our world is in crisis mode. And we have to hold our heads high and look people in the eye and get the job done. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Donald.
You're muted.
Okay. I want to throw in one extra thing, which is there's Adam Grant is he's at Wharton. He's a business professor, and he wrote a book called Give and Take. And what he did is he studied leaders and others inside of organizations, and he divided the world into givers, exchangers, and takers. Givers just give stuff and don't even ask what they can get in return. Exchangers give you something, but they expect something in return of equal value, and takers just take. They just run around scamming on what they can get out of you. And he found that to a large percentage, a huge larger percentage of the people that were at the top of organizations were givers, surprisingly enough. And the other side of the coin for that is that you have to be willing to ask for help. And that goes to what James is saying about ego. An interesting thing that maybe in a little way is different than what Alex just said is that watching television sometimes is a good thing because it helps you build rapport with people. Watching sports is a common way of building rapport with people. I got to know the head of Mitsubishi Computer, and he had about, or director they call it, he had about 10,000 people working for him. And he told me he goes home at night and watches TV to chill because his job is just so incredibly stressful. I'm not really into sports myself, but I've observed people talking. Oh, what do you think that so-and-so is going to be able to get in there and do this and save the day and blah, blah, blah. And they all know, they know the names of all the people on their teams and things like that. And part of the core to good communication skills is getting into other people's worlds. And you can't be judgmental. You have to look at this person and say, you're somebody I can learn from. And research has shown, my friend Wayne Baker at University of Michigan research shows, again, that people love to help each other. I mean, if you help somebody get a job or you introduce them to somebody that's, becomes their boyfriend or girlfriend, you lie in bed at night thinking, hey, I'm okay. I made a difference in the world. I'm a good person. And so everyone is a resource for you. Everyone. I've learned things from homeless people. I've learned things from people all over the world. And that addresses going global too, because when you're dealing from one country for another, they have different ways of thinking and different ways of being. And if you try and dictate the way that people are supposed to be without understanding what their worlds are like, it is not going to work. They're going to resent you. It's just not going to work. So the biggest advice I can give everyone is to ask people about themselves and be non-judgmental about the worlds that they live in, and not be afraid to ask for help. Because if you run into the idea that one person can solve all the problems, is just never panned out. Every single person who's successful is like my uncle, is brilliant at knowing who can help him and asking for help. And so that's my biggest advice that I can give.
Thank you, sir, for your good advice. Yes, Mr. Alex.
Okay, I'd just like to add two more keywords because this is an educational platform, and these words I think are really important and directly relates to this topic and conversation and what Donald was saying. So there's from what I remember, there's sometimes two different types of people. There's extrovert and introvert. So some people, it's just a type of personality, and maybe other people watching this program around the world are not familiar with this, but there's some types of people that like to keep to themselves. They're really quiet. They're really shy. They're not outgoing. They kind of just like doing their own thing and staying in their own space and just keeping their own family and friends and not really expanding. Now, extrovert, I think, is where you go out, you talk to a lot of people, you're confident, you're social, you're fun, you're friendly, you do a lot of stuff like outside of your bubble of comfort. So now if you are one or the other, it might have some benefits of you becoming a leader. There are some people that are extroverts that may just become a leader just because that's their personality traits. Now, I'm not discouraging anyone that's an introvert from becoming a leader, but I am encouraging them to think like, oh, maybe I am an introvert. So if I want to be a leader, if I want this position, if I want to be a manager of this company or owner of this, whatever, then I got to work a little bit harder to, go outside of my bubble to accomplish the things that I want to. So just those two keywords I think may help people become successful if you're one
Thank you.
personality type or the other.
Thank you everyone for joining today. So hopefully tomorrow we will see all of our speakers, because tomorrow we have 200s of episodes. All of your contributions, the speakers contributions, like the listeners contributions, is very, very important for World Talent Economy Forums. Hopefully with all of your support we will make more effective sessions. Thank you everyone for joining today's sessions. So take care everyone, take care, and
Yes,
it's really,
thank you.
really great session. Thank you everyone.